How's it going, everybody? I wanted to throw out a quick thank you to everybody that has been a subscriber to the channel, anybody that has become a recent member of the channel. I've been kind of quiet lately, so I do apologize about being quiet and kind of just going off the radar. So I wanted to give kind of everybody a couple of quick updates about where I've been, what I've got planned, so that these people know what's going on. Because I do work in the communications industry, and I have not been very good about communicating what's been going on. So let me just kind of give everybody the high level. So end of the year, pretty much just did live streams for the fact that I was inundated with a lot of stuff at work. So work was just taking up a lot of my time, and it didn't leave me a lot of time to really work on anything on my own. So that's come and that's gone. So yay! Pretty much everything that I was tasked with doing at the end of the year, I just finished wrapping up this week. So got that out of the way. So that was a big project that I had to go knock out, and it took priority over pretty much everything. There was another thing that popped up. It was more of I knew that it was coming for a period of time, and then it just took time for it to finally circle around for the date, and it took a lot of preparation. So one thing that I don't like doing, like that I used to do on the channel, is I don't like to just cover a topic and then just up to YouTube and there you go, you get what you get. I'm definitely trying to do a better job of higher quality content, better video production, so on and so forth. And so by doing that, there's stuff that if it's not working out, or I'm not happy with the end result, it simply doesn't go on YouTube. So with that being said, I've been trying to be better at being a content creator, because at some point in time this channel will grow bigger. More people will see it, more people will come to it, so I want to try to make sure that the content is good. So what have I been doing? So at the end of the year, the last 2 weeks of December, I went on vacation. We took the family down to Florida. We were in about the Tampa Bay area for a couple of weeks. It was awesome. Much needed break. Get to spend some time with the wife, the kids, go hang out, and just not be tied to the computer. I think I had the computer on maybe 3 or 4 times, and it was a lot of time. It was just downtime. There was nothing going on. It was either raining or there was something going on that was a big time suck where we had to wait for something or whatever. Anytime there was downtime or it was more than a couple of hours, I'd bust out the laptop and I would just watch some videos just to keep the technical juices still flowing, so that I wouldn't be like, ugh! So kept that process going, which was great for me because it helped me get started on my next big endeavor. So I've talked about security a lot in the past, and I've pretty much committed to it a few times in the past, but it's always been kind of wishy-washy with other stuff. So let me give everybody kind of a high level of the last few years. So after I passed my CCIE and route switch, I then decided I wanted to go after service provider, because at the time it was still the V3 exam, and I felt like that it would be an easy transition, knock out a couple of new technologies, boom, second CCIE, piece of cake. At least that's what I thought. I was wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong, because then when you're wrong, you learn. So the V4 exam for service provider dropped, and I started studying for that, but I realized with the new topics in SP that I would need to spend a lot of time focusing in that area. So I'd use the CCNP service provider content in order to help me get stronger in those areas. It definitely did. It definitely helped me get stronger in those areas, but I was running a race that didn't really need to be ran. So going after certification that I didn't need. So I would have been much better suited to go after security, but I really didn't want to do security. I didn't want to be a firewall guy. So I ended up leaving the company that I was at the time and going to work for a Cisco partner, where guess what? I did nothing but security. So VPNs, ASAs, FTD, ICE, you name it. Pretty much everything security. So I spent a lot of time on the WAN. There was a few BGP projects and a couple of switch upgrades, but nothing super big. The majority, 80% of my time, was spent on the security side of the house. So guess what? It's very difficult to study for one track and also for service provider, and also be working in another. So it's one thing if you're working in concert, the same vertical. It's easy to do, because then you're just going bang, 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 bang. You're ripping right through it. You're making lots of headway in a very short period of time, because you're spending literally 60, 70 hours a week on it. You're making it through a blueprint very, very quickly. So I was being a dumbass and not doing that. So that actually slowed my progress down. So it also derailed my service provider studies because I was spending a lot of time in security. I was like, all right, I'm now going to go security. But then something would change, and then I'd be focused back on service provider and working with that. And it was like, okay, now I'm going to go back to service provider because I would try to match what I was doing day to day with the track that I was studying. And it was too much back and forth, right? I was ping-ponging back and forth, not really making any big headway. To be honest with you, I probably could have already had the CCNP security knocked out by now if I would have just been smart, listened to my wife and some of my colleagues and been like, just commit to security for a few more months and you'll have it. Because then it would be like, okay, check that checkbox, move on to this next thing. But I had the dream of becoming a service provider CCIE. I still do have the dream of becoming a service provider CCIE. It's just that, well, I left the partner and went to go work for a managed service provider. I was there for a period of time and ended up leaving that company to go to work for the company that I work for now, where I'm a full-time instructor, where we focus more on the entry level. And one of the things that I find myself doing is my day-to-day job is not even closely aligned with what I do in the evening or some of my own personal studies. So I'm trying to fix that, but unfortunately the goal of the company is not the same as mine. So I end up finding myself being more focused on the higher level stuff, CCNP, CCIE, depth of learning and understanding and labbing, where most of the students that we're dealing with are more entry level, just trying to get into the industry. Those two don't align very well. It's one thing if you're teaching nothing but CCNA. I don't teach anything CCNA. I don't teach CCNA at all, and for a good reason. That's to me going back to the basics, and I've already got the basics down. There's no reason for me to stay at the basic level. I want to continue to move my progress forward. So I've been kicking back and forth the idea of doing security and just knocking it out, and I had spent a lot of time in that area. Normally, if I didn't already have the CCNP and service provider, I would go knock it out and just get done with that. But because of the fact that I've already got the NP and service provider, and I took a crack at the SPCCIE, there's really no reason for me to spend any time in the SP world. I don't work for an SP anyway. So I've been working my way steadily through the security track. I've been using the Cisco Learning Network videos. They did a bunch of content on the security core exam that I have access to. I've also been going through the SCORE Security Core Official Certification Guide, or the OCG. That's good for, I couple them together. There's some things that the videos cover, some things that the book doesn't cover, and they overlap quite nicely. But again, I know it's a written exam, but I'm not comfortable just going to take a written exam just after reading some stuff and watching some videos. I need to lab. It's just kind of like ingrained in me at this point, where if I'm not labbing, I don't feel like I'm making progress. I'm learning more, but labbing actually says, okay, now you know how it works, but can you make it actually work? So the theory and the practical have to go together in order for me to feel fulfilled. So that's what I've been doing lately. So I've been working quite heavily on that. I'm doing an ASA deep dive as we speak at the recording of this video. I'm currently using INE's CCA Security version 4, and I know you're like, but that's like a couple versions ago, Rob. Yeah, because it's security version 6 now. I had to go look. Yeah, I know I'm going back on that, but you know what? It's the only series that I can find on their website that's like a whole list of training. So that it goes through a blueprint, and I can just now, once I've gone through the blueprint, all the videos that are on the CCA Security V4 playlist, once I've gone through all that, and I'm a good portion of the way through. I think there's 70-something videos on it. I'm actually on their website right now. There's 107 videos, and I'm in the middle of ASA, but I get to bypass all the VPN stuff. I might go watch it and just do some review, or focus on the VMware and the high availability stuff. I don't really need to spend much time on that, so I get to blow past like a good 40 or 50 videos, and then I get to drop into ICE and WSA. So it makes it very, very easy for me to okay, well, I can take this big chunk and I can just put it at the end of my studies instead of going through it right now. and go through some things that I haven't covered yet, which is pretty much what I'm looking at doing. So that's my goal right now, is to get through all of that, so that by the time I'm, in a couple, probably 4 or 5 weeks from now, I'll be at a good point to where I can move on and take the SCORE exam and knock it out, then go take the VPN exam. I was thinking about just taking the VPN exam because it's concentration and just getting it out of the way. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do that yet or not. It's still debating how I'm going to approach it. But irregardless of which way I go, I'm going to have the CCNP and Security in the next couple of months. So my goal is to have it by the end of February is my goal, to have both exams knocked out, and then I'll be NP Security certified. And then from there, I wasn't really sure where to go from there, and part of me wants to continue doing it, like maybe take a break for a couple weeks, maybe go study something new that I haven't really gone over, like VMware's desktop mobility, their Horizon View platform. I've been giving some serious thought at doing that, and spending a month or so on doing that, and then circling back to Firepower and doing the Firepower exam, because my goal is, if I can get through all the security certifications, the specialist exam, so knock out Core, then do VPN, then Firepower, then do ICE, WSA, then ESA, cover all the exams. Do you need to? No. Is it gonna earn me any more money? No. Is it gonna make me more knowledgeable? 100%. And then I can also take what I've learned from all of those certifications that I can go earn, and then I can go, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm waiting for Cisco to do something about opening up the Richardson lab location. Right now it doesn't make a difference for me because I'm not ready to go sit for a CCIE, but I'm hoping over the next few months, by the time summertime rolls around, that I can go knock out a CCIE. That's my goal. And I figure if I spend a fair amount of time working through each one, it's a pretty good chance that I'll be knocking out the VPN and the core exam is the bigger of the two exams. So when you're looking at ICE is another big topic, but in the reality of it is not as much. It's not as deep from what I've from the studies that I've done. It's not as deep as VPN. There's not as much topic to cover. VPN is a huge topic scope. So I've done a lot of study in that area, and I want to continue doing it. So I'm probably going to do another series of VPN videos as well, just because of the fact that it's going back through it again and playing with ASA and a bunch of other stuff. But by the time I get through all of that, I'll be ready to go sit for the CCA lab. So that's my goal, is to go knock that out. And then once I've done that, I'm not really sure where I want to go from there. Because service provider would be obviously the next one that I would want to go knock out. But again, that's another 1.5 to 2 years of consistent study that I'm not really sure, like, other than having the certification, going after it to have it is like the only upside. Because again, I don't work for a service provider. So that's kind of the battle I'm waging with myself. So it's obviously it's going to be consistent forward progress in a particular area, but I've also been giving serious consideration to doing data center and diving in. I'm comfortable with VXLAN. I'd like to go learn ACI. I'd like to go learn UCS better and stuff like that. So I'm not sure exactly how I would go about doing that, but the idea is there. I would kind of like to see what it would look like and play around with it and get familiar with how everything comes together, because data center is it's a big deal right now, especially with all the stuff that's going on with the cloud and stuff like that. I've also been giving serious consideration to doing like a cloud certification, something like an AWS or an Azure cert. I'm leaning more towards the AWS side of the house, doing AWS because it's not tied to Microsoft. And I was actually a little disappointed in Microsoft. So I was actually thinking seriously about doing the MCSA for Server 2016 and having at least one Microsoft certification under my belt, like an MCSA, because then I would be much more well versed in Windows Server. And when I went to go take a look at their exams, I was actually disappointed that they got rid of the MCSA and they went all over to all role-based stuff. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And honestly, I don't want to spend a ton of time in Azure. It just not. I don't like the way that they went with that, and it kind of derailed my motivation to go do that. But it's like if I have interest in a particular topic area that I'd like to go learn deeper, and dive into the unknown a little bit and grow my skill sets in that area, and then go get certified in it, and be able to do content on it. That's an area that where I'm like, okay, there's a win at the end of the day, and only makes me a stronger engineer, because that's really the end goal, right? So I don't know. I'm kicking the idea around of doing an Azure certification, more on the AWS side, because then you're not tied to a vendor, you're tied to a platform. AWS. Vendors Cisco and Google, or sorry, Microsoft and Google. So I'm leaning more towards the AWS side of the house, because I work with more customers and see more people do AWS deployments than I have Azure. But obviously that isn't going to be across the board. I'm sure there's equal distributions of all three, but that's just kind of the direction I was thinking about going, and just seeing if it would be worth the effort and worth the investment to go do that. I definitely want to do cloud, because yes, I'm well aware of cloud. The other one that I see a lot of right now is a lot of Python and network programmability. And I have a friend of mine. He's a well-known guy in the CCA community, Derek Winchester. He's a member of the CCA Advisory Council, and he and I were chit-chatting the other day, and he goes, I made a comment to him. I said, well, it'd be hard for someone like myself that doesn't have a programming background other than HTML to really dive into network programmability. When I'm faster on the CLI than what some automation tool uses. And he said, yeah, to a point. He's like, but there's going to come to a point where that automation tool is going to kick your butt. And I'm like, okay. And not being really into that area, I was kind of intrigued by his comment. So we got to talking a little bit, and he goes, learning just Python on its own would be a waste. He's like, if you learn Python for what you need to learn it for in order to do network programmability, you need to have a purpose to use it, and not just learn Python to learn Python. I said, okay. He's like, because remember, Python's a programming language. He's like, it's used to develop applications and do other things. He's like, it's not limited to network programmability. I said, okay. He's like, so if you use Python the right way to do network programmability, he's like, then that's where your upside is going to come into play. He's like, you're actually going to shorten your time frame down in the Python arena if you focus on using it for what you need it for, and not learning Python to learn Python. He's like, it'd be the same thing if you're learning BGP for the first time, and you're learning how to just get it running to deploy eVPN, layer 2 VPN for VXLAN. He's like, it's a specific use case. You're using a specific address family. He's like, where if you're on the Python side of the house and you're learning Python to do network programmability, you're being specific with your use case. He's like, that also increases your time frame to get through all the stuff. He's like, will you have it the right way the first time? He's like, it's not like Cisco iOS where you configure XYZ, or you log into Call Manager and you configure your call search base and you call legs and call logs, and he's like, get all that stuff running so where you can get a phone to register to make a phone call inside of the environment and then out to the PSTN. He's like, it's not quite that straightforward. There's going to be some figure it out, some guesswork involved, that you won't just be able to type in the commands or have a pre-configured script that'll be ready to go, that'll work on every platform. It'll be a lot of trial and error. That's what turns a lot of people off. He's like, it's not as straightforward or as concise as configuring a particular feature or capability on a router. Setting like a site-to-site VPN, for example. I said, okay. But after having talked with them briefly, and this was just a few-minute conversation, I kind of get a better idea of what that was all about. So I'm kicking the idea of doing some network programmability as well. But it's prioritization for me. CCNP Security is the very top one, and then work my way down. I'd probably do VMware after that for a month and a half, and then focus on knocking out another Cisco security certification, like, for example, Firepower. Then may take up a little bit of a break, go over here, then come back to security to do ICE. This way here, I'm not like only droning on about one thing. I'm doing something, then coming over here, doing this, coming back to this, then going back and forth to try to keep things fresh and keep things new. Because then if you're doing that, in my opinion, there's forward progress in other areas, but you're also maintaining a certain level as well. That's just my take on it. But anyway, I've been rambling now here for a little over 20 minutes. First of all, I want to thank everybody for, again, subscribing. I also want to thank all the new members. I will be having content come out as soon as I can. I'm doing a dive into ASA firewalls right now, and once that is done, I'm working on going through and getting the score exam and the VPN exam knocked out, so I can get my CCNP Security. So fingers crossed. I'm studying hard because I really want this stuff to get done with. So with that being said, guys, thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me in this video. And until next time, guys, take her easy.